The cold, brittle air over Germany crackled with tension on March 24th, 1945, as hundreds of American bombers pushed eastward toward their targets. Below them, the land looked like a smoldering scar, rail lines shattered, factories silent, and roads choked with smoke rising from shattered cities. But high above this world of ruin, one lone fighter group carved their path through the sky, their silver wings catching the pale morning light like blades. And among them flew the man who would make aviation history. Lieutenant Colonel John Jack Collins, pilot of a P-51 Mustang he affectionately called Lucky Lady, a propeller-driven fighter, a piston engine, a machine built on steel, grit, and the engineering brilliance of an earlier era. But today, fate was about to place him against something entirely different, something no propeller plane was ever meant to face. The whisper of danger came first through the radio. "Red flight, be advised. Unusual aircraft spotted. Bearing 085, altitude 25,000. Collins stiffened. Unusual aircraft? He scanned the horizon. The sky was clean blue, streaked only with contrails from the bomber formation. Then a glint, small, sharp, silver, cut across the sunlight like lightning. It wasn't moving like a fighter. It wasn't diving. It wasn't weaving. It was flying in a straight, impossibly fast line. Collins blinked. At first he thought it was a trick of light, but then it banked slightly, revealing its shape. Sleek fuselage, swept wings, and no propeller. His heart dropped. A Messerschmitt Me 262, the world's first operational jet fighter. And he was about to fight it. The Mustangs around him erupted in chatter. "Jet! Jet! We've got a jet at high 2 o'clock! Jesus, look at that speed!" This isn't real. The Me 262 sliced toward the bombers like a blade. Its twin Junkers jet engines glowed red as it accelerated, leaving the Mustangs looking like they were standing still. Collins felt a surge of adrenaline. They had been briefed about the jet, faster than anything in the sky, deadly in a pass, nearly unstoppable in a chase. The only window to shoot one down was during takeoff or landing, but this one wasn't landing. It was attacking. The first pass was devastating. The Me 262 streaked through the bomber formation, firing its 30-millimeter cannons. 2 B-17 fell instantly, engines flaming, debris scattering like sparks in a furnace. The jet curved upward effortlessly, leaving fire in its wake. The Mustangs gave chase, but their engines howled in protest. "How the hell do we catch that?" someone yelled. Collins answered quietly, almost to himself. "We don't chase him. We predict him." Because this was the thing no one understood about Collins, he didn't just fly airplanes. He felt them. He sensed motion, pressure, airflow, energy. He saw patterns where others saw chaos. And now he saw the pattern in the jet's attack. The Me 262 was fast, but it was also predictable. Its turning radius was enormous. Its acceleration was incredible, but its energy retention in climbs was weaker than people believed. And its pilot, overconfident, perhaps inexperienced, was following a repetitive attack loop. Collins could see it before anyone else did. "He'll come around again," he said over the radio. "Same angle, same pass." "Red one? Say again?" "He's not fighting us. He's fighting the bombers. That makes him predictable. Position yourselves above the bombers high and fast. Don't chase. Intercept." Collins pushed the throttle forward. The Merlin engine roared. The Mustang climbed. Below him, the jet lined up for its second attack run. He had seconds. The Me 262 dove toward the formation again, its cannons thundering. Another bomber's wing exploded. Collins gritted his teeth. "Come on. Just a little more." He timed it perfectly. As the jet finished its attack, pass and began to climb away, Collins rolled inverted, dove, and cut across its flight path at a perfect intercept angle. He didn't need to match its speed. He only needed to be in the right place at the right moment. The jet flashed past him like a silver ghost. For a split second, it was right in front of him. Collins fired. His 6.50 caliber Browning machine guns lit up the sky, sending a storm of tracers tearing through the jet's smooth fuselage. Sparks erupted across its left engine. Dark smoke burst from its exhaust. The Me-262 wobbled violently. Collins pulled up to avoid collision, heart pounding so hard he felt the vibration through his flight suit. He heard nothing on the radio. Just stunned silence. Did he hit it? Was it enough? Could a propeller plane even damage a jet? No one knew. Not yet. But deep down, Collins felt it. He had struck the jet at the exact point where its pilot least expected it. This wasn't luck. This wasn't chance. This was instinct. The kind of instinct that separated legendary pilots from everyone else. He pulled back into formation. Sweat dripped down his neck. His hands shook. And for a moment, the sky felt impossibly still, like the whole world was holding its breath. Before we continue, tell me where you're watching from. I love seeing the countries these war stories reach, because in Part 2, we dive into the rising tension, the chase, the jet's recovery, and the moment Collins realizes the fight isn't over. It has only just begun. The sky didn't stay silent for long. A faint trail of black smoke curled behind the damaged Me-262 as it climbed away, staggering, wobbling, but not falling. Collins watched it with narrowed eyes. Most fighters, when struck like that, would have spiraled down in flames. But jets played by different rules. Their engines didn't choke the same way pistons did. They didn't stall the same. They didn't lose control easily. If anything, the jet was accelerating. Collins felt his chest tighten. "Red One, did you see that? He's still climbing." "I see him," Collins replied. "Stay tight. He's not done." The Me-262 reached the cloud line, turned sharply, then leveled off. Its silhouette flickered in and out of the sunlight, like a predator circling above the treetops, choosing its moment. The bomber crews saw it too. "Jet's coming around again!" someone screamed over the bomber frequency. "We can't take another pass like that!" Collins rolled his Mustang, angling up. His Merlin engine thundered against the strain. The jet wasn't running. It was preparing for revenge. A normal German fighter would have disengaged. But not the Me-262. Its pilots were told they were the future of air war. Untouchable, superior, invincible. That kind of arrogance was dangerous, and it was flying straight at him. "Red flight, break!" Collins shouted. The sky erupted into motion. Mustangs scattered, twisting through the air like startled birds. But Collins didn't break. He held his line, climbing directly toward the jet's path. Not because he wanted to, because he needed to. If the Me-262 regained full control and positioned itself above the Mustangs, it would slaughter them before they got close. Its speed made it impossible to counter once it held the advantage. Collins knew their only chance was to force the jet into another mistake. To do that, he had to make himself the bait. The jet roared toward him, engine screaming with a hollow metallic pitch no piston aircraft could ever match. It looked unreal, like something from a future war thrown into the wrong century. Collins gripped the stick. His breathing slowed. Every instinct screamed, "Pull away." But he didn't. He held the climb. The Mustang and the Me-262 were on a collision course. Tracer rounds tore past his canopy. The jet opened fire early, too early, trying to force Collins to brake. But Collins didn't flinch. He waited. Just a second more, just enough for the jet's pilot to commit. At the last possible moment, Collins snapped the Mustang into a high G barrel roll. The jet streaked past him, so close he saw the pilot's helmet through the canopy. "Jack, you're insane!" one of his wingmen shouted. "Not insane," Collins replied breathlessly. "Just buying time." The Mustang shuddered as the G-forces crushed against his chest. His vision darkened at the edges, but he'd done it. He'd forced the Me-262 into a tight maneuver it wasn't built for. The jet overshot, too fast, too committed, and struggled to correct itself. Collins banked hard, chasing the silver blur. But then the reality of the situation hit him. He couldn't catch the jet. No matter how damaged it was, the Me-262 still had one overwhelming advantage: speed. It accelerated out of his reach in seconds, leaving the Mustang's engine howling in empty air. Collins cursed under his breath. The jet leveled off again, smoke still trailing from the left nacelle, but its pilot was fighting with renewed desperation. The tables had turned. The hunter had become the hunted. The Me-262 wasn't attacking bombers anymore. It was coming for Collins. Radar operators on the bomber frequencies tracked the jet's pattern. "Red leader, the jet is looping around behind you. He's locked onto your position." Collins felt a cold weight settle in his stomach. He had hurt the most advanced fighter in the world, and now it wanted him dead. He forced his Mustang into a weaving escape pattern. The engine strained, the wings groaned. The Mustang was fast for a prop plane, but compared to the Me-262, it felt like running through mud. Then he saw it. A flash of silver far above him. The jet was diving. Straight at him. The Me-262 descended like a meteor, trailing smoke but burning with lethal intent. Collins threw the Mustang into a series of violent rolls, but the jet simply adjusted. Smooth, controlled, irresistible. Collins heard the subtle hiss of wind thickening against the canopy. He knew what was happening. The jet wasn't firing. It didn't need to. It was going to ram him. "Jack, brake, brake!" someone screamed, but Collins didn't move. Not yet. He watched the jet's nose. Not the wings, not the engines, the nose. That was where the pilot's eyes were, where his intention lived, and then, just for a fraction of a second, the nose dipped. That was it. Collins pulled the Mustang into a gut-wrenching snap roll. His vision blurred. The horizon twisted like a whirlpool. His ribs strained against the harness. The jet tore past him with a roar, missing by inches. Collins gasped for breath. Sweat poured down his temples. The Mustang trembled from the force of the maneuver, but he wasn't safe yet. The Me-262, overcorrecting from its missed strike, slipped into a shallow climb, its damaged left engine sputtering harder than before. For the first time, Collins realized something. The jet was no longer unstoppable. It was vulnerable, and the Mustang pilot who hurt it might be the only man in the sky who could finish it. The radio crackled. "Jack, you still alive?" "Barely," he muttered. "But so is he." His eyes locked onto the smoking jet, now climbing slowly, struggling to gain altitude. Its pilot was running out of options, running out of engine power, running out of sky, and Collins knew exactly what he had to do. In Part 3, the chase begins. The desperate pursuit of the world's fastest fighter by a propeller plane, and the moment Collins makes a choice no pilot was ever trained for. The sky had narrowed to a single point of focus, the wounded jet limping upward through thin, broken clouds. Smoke curled from its left engine like a dark ribbon unraveling in the wind. Collins steadied his Mustang, his breath shallow, his pulse slamming against his ribs like a drum. This was it. A propeller fighter chasing a jet in open sky, a matchup no pilot manual had ever imagined. Collins shoved the throttle forward. The Merlin engine roared with a deep rising growl, the kind of sound that rattled inside the canopy and sank into the bones. His Mustang surged ahead, nose lifting toward the Me-262's fading contrail. The gap between them was still wide, too wide. Under normal circumstances, the jet would escape effortlessly, but circumstances were no longer normal. One of the Me-262's engines was dying, and the pilot knew it. As Collins closed the distance, the German jet suddenly jerked to the right, banking sharply. Not a controlled maneuver, an urgent one. The damaged engine coughed again, spitting another burst of black smoke. "Red leader, you've got him!" someone shouted over the radio. "No," Collins replied calmly, eyes fixed ahead. "I'm close. Not there yet." The jet dove abruptly. It wasn't an attack. It was survival, a desperate attempt to gain speed by converting altitude into momentum. Jets couldn't throttle up instantly like piston engines. They needed airflow, air pressure, time. Without that, they were just sleek metal coffins. The Me-262 plunged toward a layer of thin cloud. Collins followed, his Mustang shaking as it hit turbulent pockets of cold wind. He could feel the energy in the air, the shift between smooth flow and violent buffeting. He rode the transitions by instinct, every movement of the stick a mixture of muscle memory and pure survival. Down through the cloud layer they went. The world dissolved into mist, gray, disorienting, silent. Then Collins burst through the bottom of the cloud and saw the jet again. Closer, bigger, slower. Its pilot tried another evasive maneuver, banking left this time, but the damaged engine lagged behind the right one, pulling the jet into an uneven arc. "He's fighting the controls," Collins whispered. "He's losing authority." The Mustang pressed forward, closing to within 1,000 yards. Then 800, then 6. But this wasn't a perfect setup. Collins knew he needed to be much closer. His .50 caliber guns were deadly, but not with that much distance, and not against a fast-moving, armored jet. The German pilot seemed to realize the danger. Instead of running, he pulled up sharply. Collins hesitated for half a second. What is he doing? Jets weren't designed for tight vertical moves, especially on one dying engine. Then it hit Collins. "He's stalling himself," he muttered. "He's trying to force a vertical overshoot." If Collins followed straight up, he'd shoot past the jet, and the German would drop onto his tail. It was a trap. A desperate one, but a trap nonetheless. Collins rolled out of the climb at the last second, flattening his trajectory. The jet stalled hard at the top of its climb, nose up, engines howling, airflow collapsing around the wings. For a split second, the Me-262 hung in the sky like it had frozen in time. Then it tipped over in a slow, heavy fall. This was the moment a jet feared most. Low, slow, powerless. Collins pulled the Mustang into a sharp climbing turn, intercepting the jet's descent path. He lined up behind it as the Me-262 plunged toward open fields far below. The distance closed fast. 500 yards, 400, 3. The Mustang shook violently as Collins fired a short test burst. Tracers streaked across the gap. "No good," he hissed. "Closer!" The jet pilot, realizing death was at his back, shoved everything he had into a shallow dive. The Me-262 streaked across the sky with whatever power remained, skimming above the ground. Trees whipped past beneath it. Small towns flashed by in blurs. Collins followed relentlessly, flying so low he could see windows rattling from the shockwaves. The jet zigzagged desperately. A wide S-turn, a sharp bank, a shallow climb, but each move cost energy it didn't have. Meanwhile, the Mustang held its speed beautifully, slicing the air with smooth, predictable grace. Collins pressed in. 200 yards, 150, 100. The jet pilot made one final gamble. He pulled up hard, trying to climb over a hill and escape into the cloud cover. But jets, damaged and slow, didn't climb like that. Collins saw the maneuver and committed instantly. He pushed the throttle to the firewalled limit. The Mustang surged upward behind the Me 262. For the briefest moment, the two aircraft shared the same line of ascent. Jet above, Mustang below. A perfect shot. Collins didn't hesitate. He squeezed the trigger. The Mustang's 6 Brownings unleashed a torrent of fire that lit the entire sky. Tracers tore into the jet's right engine, then the fuselage, then the cockpit area. Panels ripped free. Smoke exploded outward. A burst of flame erupted from beneath the jet's wing. The Me 262 jerked violently. Its nose dipped, its tail rose. Its engines screamed with a hollow, dying roar. Then the jet fell. It didn't spiral. It didn't twist. It simply dropped, straight down, like a stone. Collins watched it crash into a grassy field in a brilliant flash of orange and black. A column of smoke rose into the sky like a dark monument. The radio erupted with cheers. "You got him! Jack, you got him! First jet killed by a prop plane!" My God, what did we just witness? But Collins didn't cheer. He simply breathed, slowly, deeply. Because he knew what had really happened that day. He hadn't outrun a jet. He hadn't overpowered one. He had outthought it. A propeller plane defeating the most advanced fighter in the world, not with speed, but with patience, instinct, and the courage to walk into impossible odds. And yet the story was far from finished, because now came the aftermath, the disbelief, the investigation, and the legacy of the man who proved that even in an age of machines, the pilot still mattered more than the airplane. Smoke drifted upward from the burning wreck in the field below, curling into the sky like a black scar against the morning light. Collins circled once, part disbelief, part duty, watching the Me 262's remains flicker with dying flames. The aircraft that was supposed to shape the future of aerial warfare now lay shattered in a quiet patch of German countryside. A propeller-driven Mustang had taken down the world's first combat jet. It felt surreal. It felt impossible. But it had happened. Collins banked gently and climbed back toward his squadron. His hands trembled, part adrenaline, part exhaustion. His radio buzzed non-stop with disbelief and celebration. "That was insane! I saw the hit. Jack, you made history. You just took down a jet with a damn piston engine?" But Collins remained silent. His lungs ached from the G-forces. His vision still pulsed faintly at the edges. And his mind replayed the encounter in slow, haunting fragments. The jet's lethal dive, the near collision, the chase across the fields, and finally the moment of fire and falling metal. He wasn't sure whether to feel proud or simply relieved to be alive. As the Mustangs regrouped, they rejoined the bomber stream. The formation pressed forward, engines roaring, completing the mission that had brought them over hostile territory in the first place. When they reached the safety of friendly airspace hours later, ground crews rushed to help them land. But Collins didn't climb out immediately. He just sat there in the cockpit, breathing the warm scent of oil and metal, feeling the Mustang engine ticking softly as it cooled. This machine, this piece of aluminum, rivets, and roaring horsepower had carried him through something no human mind had been trained for. A prop plane versus a jet. And somehow, he had won. When he finally stepped onto the tarmac, The squadron swarmed him. "Tell us everything!" "How close was he? What did it feel like?" Collins shook his head slowly. "He was good," he said quietly. "Very good." Those words silenced the group. They weren't expecting respect, but Collins wasn't celebrating a kill. He was acknowledging the pilot inside that jet. A man who had fought with skill, desperation, and perhaps just as much courage. War wasn't about aircraft, it was about people. Both sides. But official recognition, that was a different battle entirely. Later that day, Collins was summoned by intelligence officers and senior commanders. They crowded around him in a briefing room, eyes sharp with curiosity. Reports were laid out across the table, sketches of the Me 262 crash site, intercepted radio chatter, statements from bomber crews. One colonel leaned forward. "Lieutenant Colonel Collins, explain exactly how a P-51 shot down a jet." The room was silent. Collins recounted the engagement step by step, his prediction of the jet's attack pattern, the evasive maneuvers, the moment he realized the Me 262 was wounded, the chase, the vertical trap, the final shot. The officers exchanged glances. It wasn't disbelief. It was calculation. "You're aware," one said slowly, "that this is the first confirmed jet kill by a propeller-driven aircraft in combat." Collins nodded, but his expression didn't change. "I'm aware it was the first time I've ever been that scared in my life." The room erupted in quiet chuckles, part admiration, part release of tension. War rooms rarely heard such honesty. But then came the technical analysis. Intelligence teams asked him to map the jet's behavior. They wanted to know engine response times, climb rates, stall characteristics, turning performance. Collins answered with precise detail. Every movement, every sound, every hesitation he sensed in the Me 262. One analyst whispered, "This changes everything. We finally know how they fight." Because while Collins's victory was unbelievable on its own, the implications were far greater. It proved jets were not invincible. It proved tactics could defeat technology. It proved pilots still mattered more than machines. Word spread through Allied units like wildfire. Some celebrated, some doubted. Some simply felt hope. Hope that the terrifying speed of the jet age could still be slowed by human skill. Weeks later, after more review, Collins received the official confirmation. His kill was authenticated, but his reaction was understated. No champagne, no shouting. Just a quiet moment alone on the airfield, where he looked up at the sky and wondered what the German pilot had thought in those final seconds. He whispered something no one else heard. "I'm sorry." Because pilots didn't hate each other. Not truly. They hated the circumstances that forced them to fight. The war ended not long after. Germany collapsed. The jet age was no longer a rumor. It was the future. Engineers dissected captured Me 262s, and nations across the globe raced to redesign their air forces. History was moving forward. Propellers were fading. Jets were rising. But one story, Collins's story, refused to fade. In training halls, instructors repeated his combat sequence as a lesson in tactical instinct. Engineers referenced it to understand jet vulnerabilities. Pilots memorized it as proof that impossible odds could be overcome by anticipation and courage. Years later, aviation historians dubbed his fight the last stand of the propeller. Others called it the kill that shouldn't have happened. But the truth was simpler. A man in a Mustang made a decision in a moment of perfect clarity, and that decision rewrote the ending of an entire chapter of aerial combat. As Collins grew older, he rarely spoke of the fight. When asked in interviews, he gave modest answers. "I didn't defeat the jet. He'd say, I defeated the situation. But when pressed on how he felt in that final moment, when his tracers tore into the Me-262 and history shifted, he paused for a long, thoughtful breath. Then he said, I felt human, and that was enough. He died many years later, not as a legend, not as a hero in his own eyes, but as a pilot who knew he had been part of something extraordinary. And somewhere in a museum today, a Mustang sits beneath soft lights, with a small plaque describing the unbelievable feat of the man who flew it. A reminder that even when technology surges ahead, even when the future seems unstoppable, one truth remains. Machines may evolve, but human instinct, courage, and the will to survive will always define the sky.